this is an example of when you say when marketing, a question we have to answer. What should I know as a developer to build on Cardano? So that's a question we're going to answer. I'm not going to do it here. I've answered this question 4 or 5 times in prior AMAs and interviews. But these are the things when you really think around marketing, you say, like, how do we actually answer this? Because he's asking something, but then there's a lot that is in this question, like as a developer to build on Cardano. So what do we mean by developer? And what do we mean by build on Cardano? Okay. And so you really have to drill into that. You have to create personas. There's a world of difference between the 16-year-old kid that just learned about JavaScript and wrote his first website to the 45-year-old who's writing control software for a plane autopilot. Okay, huge error between these two people, but they're both developers. And when you say build on Cardano, are you saying, okay, I'm going to issue a token, Charles coin, and trade it, and just be a fun little cutesy project? Or am I connecting my ticket management system for Ticketmaster to Cardano? Like, huge differences between these two things. But good marketing should be able to dissect that and create a journey so that people in different personas can actually go through and get reasonable answers to these types of things. And then what will happen is that you'll have all these people say, well, what about this? Like, for example, whenever you choose A, by definition, you aren't choosing B. So when you say, we're going to go functional, that means you're not imperative, okay? Or you're going to have a harder time with that. So if somebody doesn't buy that functional is the approach, they're just going to ignore that you're even doing that, and they'll go and say, well, why don't you have like JavaScript? Why don't you have like Python? Python's my favorite language. Well, you should have Python support. Okay, so you have to be very careful about how you answer these things. You have to discuss trade-offs, market dynamics. You have to really well define your developer. You have to set up an asset strategy. And then he says, what should you know? Well, okay, we could try and say, learn some Haskell, learn some functional programming techniques, but 95% of your application may be non-Plutus. It may be running off chain on a server, in which case maybe being a node guy is a lot more sensible. And you're going to outsource all of the Cardano development to a third party because you don't want to actually handle that small shim of a smart contract that's running on the system. On the other hand, you might have a very heavy decentralized application and you're running the whole thing on Cardano, in which case you're a hardcore Plutus programmer. See, so different skill sets. So this is a cool question to answer. When we say when marketing, this is what we mean by it. Answering questions like this in ways that are meaningful and useful.